The Butterfly Effect by Nikayla Sarai. Chapter 9. Between Veil and Curtain. A long, semi-translucent veil hung across the stage behind the genie as he pulled Roman up center stage, heading directly for it. Roman dug in his heels, pulling free from the genie's grip as shadowy figures appeared just beyond the veil, the muffled sound of voices ringing on the edge of recognition in his ears. This was crazy. This was crazy! Change the past? Is that... He cleared his throat, forcefully pulling himself together. He was a professional actor. He shouldn't let some simple voices and images from his past jar him so much. Usually those curtains are red, you know, he remarked in a steadier voice, staring at the shimmering veil, heart pounding in his chest as he recognized one of the shadowy figures as Taz, the prop master. He hadn't seen the old man in years, but it was hard to forget that particular rolling walk he had. The genie raised an eyebrow, glancing behind him as he kept his hands raised, his entire body still glowing like a rainbow disco ball. "I suppose," he smiled, shaking his head as he held out his hand for Roman to take it again. "The Veil of Time isn't your normal set of stage curtains, though." "Right." He kept his hand firmly down by his side as he scuffed his foot against the worn floorboards. His heart thudded in his chest as the shadowy figure of his co-star, Julia, passed close enough to the veil that he could almost make out the highlights in her hair. If he could nearly see her, how much longer before he saw himself? No. Roman narrowed his eyes. He remembered not coming to the curtain until the very last second, after trying to call Pat. He cut off the thought, forcing a smile on his face as he looked back to the genie. He shrugged, gesturing with the watch to the semi-darkened theater around them. "They don't go with the place, just saying." Not that it really mattered. The old theater had burned down from an electrical failure the year after he'd graduated college. The genie crossed his arms, a knowing gleam flashing in his eyes. "They'll shift back to red once you join the past, Roman, but unless you move those lead feet of yours." He gave one shoulder shrug. "You can't change anything from the fringes of time." Roman swallowed. "Busted." "This actually works," he mumbled, forcing himself to move up next to the genie. "Changing the past?" "I wouldn't have a job if it didn't," the genie said, taking the hand holding the pocket watch. "Good point." "Well, what are we waiting for?" Roman asked, surging forward, pulling the genie after him. "Let's get this show on the The veil of time whisked itself back at their approach, the curtain thickening and darkening with every step past it that Roman took before it fell back in place, a dark crimson red as the past settled around them. "Ode," Roman whispered, jerking backwards into the genie as he barely avoided getting hit by two of the tech crew, rushing by wheeling one of the many lampposts into place. Just beyond them, Taz had crouched down to search underneath some fake shrubbery, with Lewis, his assistant, hovering nearby. "I already looked there, sir," Lewis said, giving a nervous bob of his head to the prop master. "I swear it was in the prop room where we left it last night." "Well, it's not there now, Lewis," Taz said, biting back a groan as he pushed himself to his feet. "Go check again. Maybe it fell underneath the table. If it's not there, just..." He waved a hand. "Go, see if you can find an extra umbrella somewhere, all right?" "Yes, sir." Lewis nearly bowed before he darted off toward the prop closet, leaving Taz to move to the next set piece in his fruitless search. "I didn't take you for the gawking type, you know," the genie said conversationally. Roman snapped his mouth shut, swallowing. "I didn't realize it would be so real," he whispered. Was this how Marty McFly had felt the first time he went back in time? Had Hermione had the same reaction with the time turner? Can we... The genie shook his head, giving Roman a shove toward the brick wall where he knew his younger self waited. "You're basically a ghost, Roman. They can't see, feel, or hear us." "Oh." Roman furrowed his brow. "Then how do I..." His heart stopped as they rounded a partial house set. There he was, just where he knew his younger self would be. Young Roman loitered near the exit, his eyes constantly flicking up to the clock on the wall as he fidgeted in place. Jeez, had Roman actually thought he didn't look guilty just standing there? His younger self basically had, "I know where the umbrella is," painted across his pale face. Change the past? The genie finished for him. Well, yeah, Roman said, turning his eyes away from the teenager, and half turned to the genie. How can I make him... He shook his head, holding out the pocket watch. You know, not make the choice I don't want to make if I can't talk to, me. To put it simply, the genie said, lifting the chain of the watch over Roman's head, you're going to merge with yourself, he said, dropping his hand to Roman's, pulling his hand free from the watch to allow the device to rest against his chest. Roman blinked, flexing his fingers. Merge? I'm going to possess myself? The genie tisked. You humans always use that word, he muttered, shaking his head. Possession means taking control. You're not doing that, Roman. You're merging. He gestured to the teenager. For a short time, current you and past you will be one person. There will be no fighting for dominance, no controlling the past self's actions. You will be living this moment as yourself. You will be teenage you once more, but retain current you's knowledge, which is why... His eyes darkened as he jabbed a finger at Roman's chest, tapping the watch. You do not talk about the future. Roman took a step back, waving his hands defensively. Got it, I got it. Don't talk about time travel. It was just like Fight Club. Rule 1, you don't talk about Fight Club. I can't change other people's decisions, nor tell them about the future. I was paying attention when you told me the first time. Relief flashed through the genie's eyes as he nodded, taking a step back. Good. He exhaled, fingers twitching as he glanced to Roman's younger self. You're sure this is the choice you want to change? He asked, as the teenager suddenly dropped a hand to his pocket. Roman tensed, his heart rate picking up. The text. Patton had just shown up. Of course. If he could stop, if he could change this. The genie nodded. Then one last rule, Roman, he said, blocking his pathway to his younger self. Time is a fickle thing. It does not like changing, and the time stream will not retain its new course if this warp is not done properly. Roman frowned, fidgeting in place as he looked around the genie to his younger self. Not stay... If time won't... The genie cut him off with a wave of a multicolored hand. You have 3 choices, Roman, he said firmly. 3 chances to change the past. There are no halvesies here. If you choose to change one decision, you must change 2 more, or else the alterations to your lifeline will not stay. He shook his head. It's an all-or-nothing deal, Roman. All or nothing. At the end of your 3rd decision, you will have the opportunity to keep all 3 changes. His hands clenched, the rainbow on his skin shifting to more blues and purples as his eyes darkened. Or none of them. Therefore, he jerked his head to young Roman as the teenager pushed open the door. Is this the choice you want to change? To save Patton from his current half-life? Roman shoved past the genie and ran, a zing of cold electricity rushing through him as he slid into himself just as young Roman lowered the fedora over his eyes.